Welcome back. We are on day 2 of our visual puns. We're gonna have some fun today. Today's when we actually start drawing, sketching though. Okay, so don't feel like as you're drawing these today that you need to be spending like a ton of time on them. Honestly, I would say most students probably spend somewhere around maybe 5 to 10 minutes per sketch. And you're expected to do 2 sketches. That way you've got one as a backup. We'll talk about why that's important shortly. But basically, here's what we have so far. You have filled out your 10 homophones, right? Your words that sound the same but have different meanings. And then you took, let's say our homophone in number 1 was horse, right? Like there's the horse like that gallops around, majestical creature. And then there's horse like, I'm a little hoarse today. So how do we turn those 2 words that they sound the same, horse, how do we turn it into a pun, right? So maybe you said like, I'm feeling a little hoarse. So maybe that was your pun. And then maybe, homophone 2 was bear. And then you did something with like bare feet here. Anyway, hopefully you already got that done. If not, that's the first thing you have to do. Step 1 and step 2 have to be done before we can move on to step 3 and 4. And that, my friends, is what we're doing today. Step 3 is where you're going to choose, so out of these 10 puns that you've come up with, you're going to choose your 2 favorite ones. You're going to draw a picture of one of them here, and then your other one here. The goal being, when you draw it, once again, it doesn't have to be fancy, it doesn't have to be taking like hours to draw and shade, and it's just a sketch, okay? So 5 to 10 minutes, tops, I would say, per each one anyway. But you want to make it obvious what it is, because here's how you're going to claim your pun. First thing you should know is there can only be one of each pun per class. So that means if somebody already said that, or if somebody already showed me a picture of I'm feeling a little hoarse, which, it wouldn't be somebody going like this, right? Because that's actually what it is. That's what it is. Like that is somebody feeling hoarse. Their throat hurts and they can't talk well because their throat is sore, right? So instead, how would you make that visually into a pun? Well, maybe we see a person, but we don't see the whole person, or maybe we do, but the person's really, takes up the whole page, or maybe it's just like we see from like their knees down or something like that, so we can tell that person is quite large, or maybe they're normal size, but either way, then really small on the bottom of the paper, next to the person's feet, there'd be a tiny little horse, right? Like this beautiful horse with a long mane or whatever. And they're bending over and their hand is kind of coming down and touching the top of the tiny horse. Now it's, I'm feeling a little horse, because we're bending over and we're touching a tiny little horse. That's how we take our pun and we turn it into something visual. Okay? So once again, you're going to do that with 2 of your favorite. Now I'm going to be real with you. Some of these puns you came up with, some of them are going to be really hard to turn into something visual and have it make sense. It's just the nature of puns, right? Like some things work better visually and some things are a little trickier. So maybe there's a pun that you love up there in step 2, but you're like, I have no idea. How would I even draw that? You can ask me for help and I will be happy to help you brainstorm. But once again, some of them are just a little bit easier to come up with, hey, here's how I'm going to draw this as a sketch. So basically what you're going to do, you're going to make these 2 sketches. Your 2 favorite puns, put one on the left side, one on the right side. If you want a different piece of paper that's bigger, that's fine too. Just basically what you're going to have to do between now and next class is you're going to have to show me this, your sketch, okay? And you're going to not tell me what it is. There shouldn't be words on it. It shouldn't be colored in. It should just be kind of a basic sketch. And you're going to hold it up for me, or you can email it to me if you feel more comfortable with that, or if it's outside of class, just send me an email of the picture, and I'm going to try to guess what it is. If I look at it and I can guess it, you just claimed it. That's how you claim it. So you can't like type in the chat box, Mrs. Stinson, I want this one. That's great. You can still potentially have it, but you got to do this step. You have to draw it out and have me guess it. The reason I do that is because I want to make sure your final one, once we start getting into that phase, that when people see it, they're actually like, oh yeah, I get what it is. So we're going to play a little game here. Oh, just by the way, so step 4 is actually showing it to me. Once again, you can either do it during class time with your camera, or you can send an email. Either way works. So drawing the sketches, showing them to me. That's steps 3 and 4. That's what we're looking to get done before next class. Anyway, we're going to do a little game here where you're going to pretend you're me. And you're going to try to guess what these puns are. Now, mind you, what I'm about to show you are students, finished ones. So these are not sketches. These are like, they are really well done. They are shaded. This is what yours will look like in 8 class periods from now. But I just want to give you an idea of how they'll look once they are actually done. And also, I want you to kind of get a feel for, hey, this is what I'm going to do to Mrs. Stinson and have her guess. And let's see if you can guess the ones I'm about to show you. You guys excited for this? It's going to be fun. All right, so visual pun examples. Let's see how you do. All right, first one. What do we think this is? I'll give you a second before I give an answer. Feel free to put your answers in the chat box if you want to. Feel free to raise your hand, or if you're watching the demo outside of class, just feel free to guess in your head. So this one is Iron Man, and we can tell it very easily because we see there is an iron for the head, and there's also the context clue that there's also an ironing board with a shirt on it back here. So if we weren't really sure, like, what is that? Is it a cheese grater? Now we really know, because we're looking at this, we're like, okay, yep, that's an iron. So sometimes adding other things into the picture that can be like clues can also be helpful. And then of course we can tell it's a man because he's wearing a suit, got the tie on, right? So Iron Man. That's our answer. All right, next one. What could this be? Looks like we've got a clock. We've got some wings. This one is time flies. Now, some of these are going to be more obvious than others. Like this one, I would say, if you want it, if you were kind of confused and you're like, is that a compass? Like, there are things I could see done that would make this more obvious. Having numbers 1 through 12 in that circle, right? That would definitely make it more obvious that it's a clock. I think in the wings, there's sort of like a letter E and a backwards letter E over there, which is fine. Like it looks cool. It's a design thing. But sometimes added things that aren't necessary can make it a little bit confusing. So, only add in things if it helps it make more sense. Try not to add in a lot of stuff that isn't a part of the actual pun. And notice how these, like, they don't have backgrounds unless the background is necessary. Notice how there are no colors unless the color is necessary. Like, for example, if it was like, I'm feeling a little blue. Well, if you just drew somebody that was sad, that actually what it means, right? Like, that's not a pun. That is what it is. So you would have to draw somebody and you'd have to make them blue, right? Like that's the only way to make it a pun. So there are times where color is necessary, but only then can color be used on these. And there is going to be times where words are necessary, but usually we want to avoid all words. We want to avoid color if we can, unless it's necessary. Okay, let's go to the next one. What is this? goodness. So you can see this one does have a background, but the background is kind of necessary because we need to see that this is something that would go, well, at least part of it would be something to do with water. Okay, so what could this be? It looks like, I mean, so here we've got a car parked in there. We've got a bicycle parked in there. There's some shelving, maybe for storage. It looks like there's a door kind of coming up and up. So that's probably a garage. And it's in the ocean. Garage boat, garage. What is this thing? Oh, maybe it's a sailboat, but it's a garage sale. Oh my goodness, that's what it is. It's a garage sale. This is one of my favorite things of all time. I love garage sailing, so I'm here for this one. So good. So this one, as you can see, it has some background. It's got a lot of detail in this one because all of them are clues to help us get to here's what that visual pun is. Okay, how about this one? All right, so we're definitely in the water. We can tell by the background stuff. Obviously, the main thing is what's right in the middle. And we can see it's definitely a hammer, right? We can tell that it's made out of wood, which is also probably part of the hammer, but it's also got like that top fin. Oh, I think I got it. Do you? Hammerhead, right? So hammerhead like the shark. So once again, we want to fill the space. We don't want it to be like just a tiny little picture in the big space. Fill the space and only using background and other clues if they're necessary. So this one we can see no background on because it's not relevant, not necessary. But we can tell it's a milk carton. There's a mustache on it. What could it be? It's a milk mustache. How many of you do that sometimes when you drink your milk? Just like intentionally leave that little milk mustache up there. Okay, love this one. Beautifully shaded, right? Very soft and smooth. I love that. So it's obviously a flower or plant of some sort. And we've got what looks like an over easy egg, maybe? Oh yeah, and egg shells, right? So like instead of like a tulip coming up, it looks like an eggshell coming out of there. So, egg flower, egg, ooh, anyone got it? Eggplant. All right, what about this one? I just love it. So notice that this one obviously is some kind of a room, and it's very much so animated, lively. What could this be? We see some couches, lamp, maybe a poster on the wall, light switch. So, can anyone guess it? It's a living room, because see, it's like alive, but it's a room. So cute, right? Like that one I feel like would be really hard to come up with. How do I make this work? Visually, this student did a great job. So cute. Okay, this is the very first time I ever taught this project, which you guys, I mean, it's a long time ago. So this would have been like 2007, 2008. Like we're talking like, this is from a student from that very first year I ever taught this project. And it's still one of my favorites. I just love how it turned out. So what could this be? We can tell it's some kind of an egg, again, very popular today. And we can see that spear, the horns, the tail. I'll give you a hint. It's an appetizer and it's one of my favorites, especially in the springtime. What could it be? Deviled egg. Yummy, yummy. Especially if it's got like jalapenos and pickles in it. Yum! Anyway, deviled egg. Okay, this one. Looks like a cake on a pedestal, but it's not a normal cake, is it? What do we got going on here? Looks like it looks like Swiss cheese. So cheese, cake. Oh! Anyone got it? It's cheesecake. All right, last one. Now, this one I'm going to give you guys a heads up. So, you know how I told you before, we want to make things really obvious. We don't want to add things that don't belong. If there are things that could help with clues, we want to add those. So in this one, I have heard so many guesses for this one. I've heard bookworm. I've heard couch potato. I've heard, oh goodness, I'm trying to remember all of them. Because first off, it's kind of hard to tell, like, what is that furniture structure? Is it a bookshelf? Because it's got drawers and it kind of looks like maybe there are books on the very right-hand side there. Is it like a cabinet? Is it a bed? What is that exactly, right? What's going on there? And then the thing on it, is it a worm? Is it just like a really short worm? Is it a potato? What is that exactly? So, first and foremost, let me get you the answer. The answer is sleeping pill. Now let's talk about how we could have made this more obvious. First off, I would have made the bed more simple. I get that some beds have the drawers and stuff like that, but let's make it a very basic bed so we know it's a bed and not curious if it's something else. The pillows, I think they need to be fluffy. They kind of look like books, right? They're a little bit too rigid. And maybe we have a blanket or some coziness, right? We're sleeping. We want to be cozy. The pill part of it as well. I think because it's all shaded the same, it kind of gives it that vibe of potato or worm or something like that. If we want it to look like a pill, we should probably only shade like the bottom half. You know how like a lot of times a pill will be like bottom half is red, top half is white or something like that. So I would shade it differently and maybe put that like RX symbol on it. It's not a word, right? But it does give a little bit of a clue that it's a pill and not something else. The Z's definitely help. That was a good little clue there. Even the curtain is kind of helpful because we want it dark if we're sleeping. But anyway, I just wanted to talk through that with you guys. As you're drawing yours, think of those types of things, and that will hopefully help it so that when you show me yours, I'm like, oh yeah, it's this, and not like, is this a this or that, you know. Also, another thing as a tip, you can go to Google and like, okay, I'm just going to be real with you. If you told me, Mrs. Stinson, draw a horse, like for that one, I'm feeling a little horse. I can draw a horse. You'll probably know what it is, but it's going to legitimately look like an elementary student drew it, even though I am your art teacher and I have studied art since I was like 4. I've always been into art. So why would my image look like an elementary kid drew it? Simply because our brains, our minds don't carry, unless you have a legitimate photographic memory, our brains don't hold the amount of detail that a picture does. So what I do when I'm drawing something, I'll usually type in like illustration of or drawing of, and then whatever it is. Horse. Okay. Now if I'm looking at these images, I can make a horse look almost like a photograph of a horse, honestly. Once I have something to look at, it's going to look so much better. So what I want you guys to know is as you're drawing your sketches today, and as you're drawing your puns or anything, not just for this project, all semester, please use your resources. Don't think that you need to draw everything from memory, because in all honesty, 99.9% of us, it's just not going to be our best effort. When we look at an image, we are able to kind of see the proportions, the scale. We can see the details so much better than trying to like think in our head, okay, like how does this look now? So use Google or whatever you got for imagery. It's your friend, okay? I think that's about it. Oh, actually, no, last thing. If you're curious, like, ooh, I don't know which ones have been taken and which one haven't, if you go either into our landing page in Buzz or you come here to this slide, either one will work, but you click on Stinson's Classes, that's me, and then you'll have to look down here for your class time tab, but you'll see the names, and then next to it will be puns. Now, in this particular class, no one's got one yet because, well, I haven't met with them. But you can see here, there's a couple that have been claimed. And here there's a couple that have been claimed. You guys can't edit this, only I can. And the only way I'm going to be putting the claimed ones in there is by you showing me your sketch or sketches. Remember, we want two. One is a backup in case your first one's already taken. Showing them to me either in class or via email if that works better for you, because it's not class time or because you just don't want to show it to everyone in class. That's okay too. But now is that time. So get sketching. Make sure you're claiming your time in your art journal as well under day 2 for visual puns, anytime you spend on this today. And let's start seeing what you're all coming up with. I can't wait.